Hey guys, Tempestorm Ratsmah here, and I'm here with another card review. So One Night in Karazhan is coming up in a couple of days, and I'm really excited for it. Trying to get prepared, try to get a good feel for what these cards are and how good they are, just so I can get a head start on my opponents when the update does hit in a couple of days. And we're going to go over, this is the second review, so we're not going to go over the cards that we went over last week. So we're going to skip a couple of them. And if you want to see those cards reviewed, if I skip your favorite card or a card you really want to know about, make sure you just check out last week's video. But without further ado, let's get started. First card here we have is Arcane Giant. 12 mana 8/8, costs 1 less for each spell you've cast this game. It's actually very interesting. There's a lot of giants that are put in the epic slot. There's the Molten Giant, the Clockwork Giant, Sea Giant, Mountain Giant. There's a ton, right? I would say that this is probably the second best giant among all the giants. If you think about why the giants are not really picked and why they're bad, they're all like nearly impossible to play, or they're gonna cost like 10 mana for an 8/8 when you do play it. Like Molten Giant, Clockwork Giant, and Mountain Giant specifically, those cards are extremely hard to play, and you won't get a discount with their card effect. Obviously Sea Giant is a really good one in Arena. You see that picked quite often. But behind Sea Giant, I would say Arcane Giant is the second easiest to play, which makes it the best giant, or second best giant. Just because, you know, it's the same stats, but just an easier way to play it. You will most likely be able to play spells throughout your game. And since this is more of a late game card, you'll have a lot of time to set up for it. It kind of reminds me of Nerubian Prophet, where it kind of gets discounted the longer the game goes on. It doesn't get discounted automatically, but you can kind of delay a game and you can like stall out. Like you can try to keep removing, and then at the end you'll have a really cheap giant to play, right? Let's say, for example, you play like 6 spells trying to stall out the game. Now your opponent's in for a surprise because you have huge tempo play with the giant. Whereas if you didn't have something like a Nerubian Prophet or a giant, you know, you just keep removing, you run out of removal, now you're dead. You know, it's a completely different story. So I do like this giant. Pickability wise, I think it's okay. It's still very difficult. You'd ideally want to play this for 7 or less. So you're planning to play 5 spells. And it doesn't mean you need 5 spells in your deck. It means you got to play 5 spells before you play this. I would say if your deck maybe is on the higher spell side of decks, maybe if you have like 10 plus spells, this would just become a really great pick. But even without that many spells, if you have just a normal amount of spells, maybe like 6, 7, it's probably still a decent pick if your other epic picks are bad. Generally epics aren't that great, so I think Arcane Giant is very likely going to be seen a lot in the One Night in Karazhan meta. Alright, second card. Medivh the Guardian. Battlecry, equip Atiesh, Guardian of the Great Staff of the Guardian, and I have that right here. After you cast a spell, summon a random minion of that cost. So pretty much it's a summoning stone. It's a summoning stone that you can summon 3 minions with 3 spells. I do think that this card is decent. Once again, we always have to compare it to other cards of the same rarity. So comparing it to other legendaries, I would say it's on the better half of legendaries, but barely. It's like barely better than most legendaries. It does have a cool effect with the battle cry, and I think if you do have like pretty high impact spells, things like flame strikes or lay on hands, like any like really expensive, very expensive spells, it would work even better. Especially if you're playing a class without ping, it gets that extra value because you can still hit things with the weapon. It may not seem like the best use to it, but sometimes that is what you need, is a 1 damage ping. So I think it's a decent card. I think it's a decent card. We went over these 2 cards already last week, so we'll just skip those. And here we go with Druid, Moonglade Portal. Druid gets their own portal, very much like the Mage card, like this one, Fire Lens Portal. But theirs is restore 6 health, summon a random 6 cost minion for 6 mana. So pretty much you're getting a 6 mana 6 drop, right? You're automatically getting a 6 mana 6 drop. It may or may not be good. Most likely it'll be worse than your average 6 drop that you pick, right? Because there are a lot of bad 6s out there. Just look at the card right next to it, right? Looking Bookworm. But I do think the effect is useful. It's restore 6 health, so it's not restore 6 health to you. You can restore 6 health to one of your minions as well. And knowing Druid has a lot of high health minions, a lot of big guys that you can heal. So it can be tempo, and this is the reason why Firelance Portal is good, is because it does tempo, right? It does tempo and then card advantage by doing a 2-for-1, and then you also remove. So in that same way, you know, you're developing something and also you're healing something that you already had, so that's 10 more tempo. So I do think this card is actually pretty good. You don't get that many useful spells, and also you don't get that many useful like self-heal spells, like, because you can use this to heal yourself if you are in a very dangerous spot. So yeah, I mean, I like the card, I like the design. I would say it's moderately strong. I'd say it's got a decent pick priority. The only thing that really troubles me is that it's in the rare slot, which seems a little bit unfair because it's probably still not as good as Firelands Portal, but it's a rare. And as we know, most of the best cards in Arena are in the rare rarity. So I mean, it'll make it a little bit harder to pick, but still a pretty decent card. And I'm definitely gonna try this out if I get it offered. I'll probably pick it over things that are better than it, most likely things like Sunwalkers and Lobbers and whatnot, just to give it a try. And yeah, looks like fun. Went over those cards, and we have here Menagerie Warden, 6 mana 5/5, choose a friendly beast, summon a copy of it. Wow, this card is nuts, man. This card is nuts. Think about the 5/5. The 5/5 stat line is pretty much for 5 mana cost minions. So this thing costing 1 more mana, this Battlecry effect costs 1 mana, because you get the 5 mana 5/5, then you have a 1 mana Battlecry, choose a friendly beast, summon a copy of it. Summon a copy of it, not put it in your hand. They're already playing it for you. Like, as if you can copy a River Croc with this card, a 2 mana 2/3, you've already made value. It's 6 mana 5/5 and a 2/3. You know, that's a better Silverhand Knight, kinda. But I mean, think about if that's like on a very small scale that you think about it. If you copy anything bigger than that, oh my god, this card is great. This card is great. And I really like how Blizzard's pushing this like beast thing in Druid. You kinda expect a lot more beast things to happen with Druid now. And it definitely makes Druid a little bit more exciting to play, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm very good at Druid, but I don't play it often because I find it really boring. But with the more beast things that they've added, I've had more and more fun with it. Trying to make one crazy beast with Mark of Yasraj, Wild Wakers and whatnot. But yeah, I really love the idea of backing the beasts in Druid. And yeah, this card is great. I'm so happy it's a common too. I can really see some Druid dominance perhaps coming out this next update. Anyways, it's a good card. It's a good card. Maybe like an almost pick card. Here we have our next card, Moat Lurker, 6 mana 3/3, Battlecry, destroy a minion, which is good. Death Rattle, resummon it, which is bad. First thing I noticed with cards like this, yeah, you see the text, you see the 6 mana 3/3, and then you puke, because that is not an appropriate amount of stats for 6 mana. And what's even worse is you're not fully removing it. You can use this as a combo, since you can actually target your own minions. You can use it as a combo with your like Nubian Eggs or any Death Rattle that you might have on your board. and that may make it good. But using on your opponent's minion, it's just gonna come back, and 3/3 is not anything hard to remove, right? It's almost better if this card was like a 6 mana 1/7 or 6 mana 1/8. Just make it like this thing that your opponent has to try to kill, but it's very difficult to. But I mean, this card is just terrible. Think about how popular Death Rattle minions are in this game. You're like, most likely your opponent, if they have something to remove, like it's gonna be like a Bog Creeper or North Sea Kraken, something huge, right? Besides those, you kill something, it most likely has Death Rattle. You're helping your opponent in the long run. You're giving them the Death Rattle, and then you're giving them the full minion again later. I think this card is garbage, especially in the rare slot. Oh my god, like there's so many good rares. No. Moving on. Fool's Bane. So this is a warrior card. 5 mana 3/4, unlimited attacks each turn. Can't attack heroes. So this is kind of, I look at this card, and I've actually seen a couple of reviews on this card from other people. And I think the general attitude towards this card is that it's either really good or that it's nuts, or like that it's really strong. I actually think the opposite. I think this card is terrible. And here's why. It's a mix between like something like Doomhammer, and has the same stats, exact same stats as Assassin's Blade, and both those cards are terrible. Reason being, you don't have that much health. You don't have that much health to keep hitting into things like this. And with Warrior, you pick this Fool's Bane. How many more weapons do you think you can play after you hit 4 times with the Fool's Bane? Like, all your other weapons that you draw from now on have to be used in a mediocre way by hitting into something smaller when you could kill something bigger for more tempo, because you don't have enough health to hit into something bigger. Something like that. And this coming out on turn 5, like, there's not going to be like 4 perfect 3 health guys on turn 5. You're much better suited with playing a bigger minion, like even a 5 mana 4/6, or just like playing Arcanite Reaper, which can deal with big stuff, which, you know, you're in turn 5 is a little bit like, it's in the mid game, like mid turns of the game, right? And you're like slowly progressing into the late game. Guess who wins the late game? It's the guy who can remove your opponent's mid game and let your mid game ride to the late game. And this thing does not deal with that stuff very well. Like, you're trying to hit into Yeti twice. You can't. And what makes it even worse than Doomhammer and Assassin's Blade is you can't even go face. You can't even go face with this card. You draw it, you can't go face. Like, one redeeming factor about Doomsayer and Assassin's Blade was that you can just all in go face, and if you go face, that's a lot of damage per mana. And Warrior, as we know, is a class that does do that quite often. Like, you'll draft a deck if you're ahead enough and you have the right number of weapons, or you have the right draws coming in, you can decide to disregard the board and just go face and try to finish them off that way. But this card cannot give you that flexibility. I think Fool's Bane really is what the name suggests. It is, you know, the Fool's Bane. So we'll just leave it at that, and we'll move on. Ironforge Portal. We have a 5 mana warrior spell. 5 mana, gain 4 armor, summon a random 4-cost minion. This card is terrible. Like, the gain 4 armor, that's 2 hero powers you never asked for. And we already know that warrior hero power is not very useful in Arena. But you never know. I think cards like this are just waiting for the next update, where they give more armor effect cards, things like shield slams. So we'll see. I mean, like, it depends on what they do with warrior armor. Like, they definitely need more stuff, more mechanics to work around the warrior armor to actually start making these cards better. But for now, Ironforge Portal is pretty bad. 5 mana 4 random 4-drop, most likely a 4-drop that's terrible for an effect that is terrible. This card is terrible. I'm not sure. Warrior seems to have gotten the short stick here with 2 bad cards so far. But yeah, and this is definitely the worst portal This is definitely the worst portal that there is among the Druid one and the Mage one. This is the worst. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Next card, we have Avian Watcher. Battlecry, if you control a secret, gain +1/+1 in taunt, which is a decent effect. You see this with a couple of dragons cards, and you know, you see this with a couple of cards. But I look at the stat line, 5 mana 3/6, which is acceptable. I'd say that the 5 mana stat line would be 5 mana 4/6 or 5/5. That's the most common stat lines you'll see in Arena. This is a little bit less, 5 mana 3/6, but it does have that effect to make it a little bit more if you do control a secret. I think overall, it's an okay card, but if you look at the rarity, it's a rare card, and what do we say about rares? It has the best cards in the game. So that makes it a little bit harder to pick up, so I don't think we'll be seeing a lot of Avian Watchers, even though the card is not terrible. So next card, we have Menagerie, a Magician, 5 mana 4/4, give a random friendly beast, dragon, and murloc +2/+2. So this is, you give a random friendly beast, dragon, and, that's the key word, and murloc +2/+2. I think this is a card you can definitely make work. There are a lot of beasts, a lot of murlocs, and a lot of dragons, and usually you'll get maybe a couple of each in your arena decks. And the effect is strong. Like if you hit just one guy, then it's a 5 mana 6/6, which is really good for that stat line, because what do we say? It's a 5 mana 4/6 stat line. That's what the stat line is for 5 drops. So if you just hit one, you get that bonus. So I do see this card being okay. It definitely is a win more card, because if you're so behind that you don't have any plays and you have to play this on the empty board, you're not in a good spot. So keep that in mind. Yeah, I think it can be okay. If you have a lot of beast, dragons, and murlocs, pick it, and I hope you queue into me, and I'd love to get owned by this card. It would be glorious. Okay, moving on. Onyx Bishop, 5 mana 3/4, summon a friendly minion that died this game. I love the design. I love that we're getting more like resurrect abilities in Priest. But I think the card itself is bad. It's a rare card once again, so you have to be a little bit more strict with rare cards. And it's a 5 mana 3/4 stat line. That's awful, man. You're playing a 5-drop that dies to most 4-drops for free. Doesn't even kill a 4-drop, just dies to it in one hit for free. For a random friendly minion revival effect, that's not worth it. I do see how they designed this card, because, you know, I would say that this effect does cost maybe around 2 mana, summon a friendly minion that died this game, and then you have a 3 mana 3/4, but God, this is just so awful, man. It's just not reliable. It may be good. I think this is more of a constructed card. Like, it could be good if you don't play that many bad things, but in Arena, there's always a possibility that we pick up things like Imp Master or things that have like spawn tokens, right? And if any of those tokens die, it just is a huge liability to the Onyx Bishop's effect. So, yeah, not a great card, and we'll move on. Silver Moon Portal, give a minion +2/+2, summon a random 2-cost minion. Wow. This card is actually so damn good. The only downside I see of this card is the cost, the mana cost. You get a lot of good Paladin 4-cost things, right? You get good 4-cost minions, you get good 4-cost weapons, you get good 4-cost spells. So that's the only downside. But honestly, I think this card may become like the new Uldaman. The new Uldaman of One Night in Karazhan. We'll be seeing a boosted rate of offering for this card, and it's going to be such a pain in the ass. And one of those reasons is, in Arena, buffs are too strong I don't think a lot of people have keyed in on this or like locked in on this fact, but buffs are too strong. Like any +2/+2, even like a +1/+2 effect that you've seen with the 1 mana Paladin card, you can kill whatever minion your opponent plays on curve with your minion you played on curve. It automatically helps you beat your opponent's minion, and then you're ahead, right? You're ahead. This card giving you +2/+2 and a 2-cost minion, this is literally a card that has 2 cards in it for 1. Because both of these cards, summon a random 2-cost minion for 2 mana is fine. Even it doesn't even matter for Paladin because they flood out so well. And even if they get a bad trade, it's Paladin, they can fix it. And then you get a 2 mana +2/+2. That's a good card as well. This is pretty much 2 cards in 1. This really is. There's a lot of cards that have 2 random effects in 1 card, but one of the effects are usually bad. But this card has 2 great effects in 1 card. It's actually a little bit tilting that this is common. I really dislike the Paladin metas. I really dislike them. Because they're the most brain dead games you can play against the Paladin, where your Paladin just does things, and then you realize, hey, it's either I have the answer or I don't, and then when you don't, most likely you don't, because usually it's like a 1-card answer in the entire game that you need. 1 card in the entire game, you don't even have it in your deck, and you're like, okay, I guess you win because you had that starter. Sorry, get a little bit just a little frustrated. I would say this is the second best portal, maybe even the first. This and Firelands portal are definitely the best, and I don't understand why they gave it to Mage and Paladin, the best portals, but I guess we'll find out. Hopefully, maybe this card is just no, it's not bad. I'm like really hoping that somehow it turns out bad, but it's really not. It's really not. It's really good. Anyways, we're gonna move on. 4 mana 3/2 Battlecry, summon a 0/5 taunt minion. I think this card in Arena probably doesn't have very much practical use. If you have a lot of buffs, if you're playing a class with a lot of buffs, Mark of Natures, or like Blessing of Kings, or even Priest with Inner Fires and Velen's Chosens, I think the 0/5 may come in handy. But otherwise, do not pick this card. It's very situational, extremely situational. So you want to make sure that you know what you're doing when you pick it, right? You want to make sure that this actually synergizes with your deck. And that's it. Oh, I love this card. Priest of the Feast. It even rhymes. Oh my god. We got a 4 mana 3/6. That's insane. That's insane. That's insane. 4 mana 3/6 stat line should not exist, Water Elemental. But I mean, it's for Priest. It's for Priest, so I think it's fair. Priest is one of the worst classes in the game right now, and it's been like one of the worst like for a very long time. And I think 4 mana 3/6 for Priest, and I suggested this myself before. I think this is perfectly fine. The reason why it's so good is like when you're going into your mid-game turn, something with an little bit of extra health, and this is why Mage has a little bit of dominance too. It's harder to rush down a Mage when they play 3/6 stat line, and same thing will go with a 4 mana 3/6. It helps you bop into so many more 2/3s and 3/2s and whatever small dudes, and just keeps you in the game, or like helps you make a comeback in the mid game. So I think this card is absolutely just great. I think it's just great. 4 mana 3/6 stat line should have existed sooner, Water Elemental, but not for but for classes that actually need it, and not classes that are overpowered already. Water Elemental. Okay, we're gonna move on. 4 mana 3/4. We have Wicked Witch Doctor. Whenever you cast a spell, summon a basic totem, a random basic totem. So basic totem meaning that it'll just be the hero power totems, like the taunt totem, spell damage totem, healing totem, and the searing totem. I think this is interesting. You do take a 1/1 stat line hit, right? This should be a 4 mana 4/5. This effect costs 1. But you're playing it in Shaman, and you get a lot of cheap spells. You get lightning bolts, you get rock biters, earth shocks, lava shocks, freeze shock, whatever, you name it, you get cheap spells. So you may be able to spam totems. I think it has more to do with your your totem synergy. So if you have a lot of totem synergy cards, then it would be better, right? And I do, there are a lot of cards that have that totem synergy. So I mean, you got to pick this if it's right for your deck. You know, you don't want to be picking this as like a first card or a second card in your draft. You want to pick this as like maybe your last couple of cards where you're like, oh, you know what, I do have a lot of totem synergy, I can make this work. Or I have a lot of cheap smells and a lot of totem synergy, I should be able to make this work. So there's that. And Cloaked Huntress. Oh my god, I love this card too. Look at this. Look at this. Look at it. 3 mana, 3/4. Already good. Already good. Hunter card only, already good. Hunter needs this in the early game. Like 3 mana, 3/4 stat line in the early game, you need this to control the board as Hunter, because your board control tools are near nothing. Near nothing. And this is why Glaivezooka has been the best card in Hunter for a very long time, is because you suck at board control as Hunter and you need Glaivezooka, and Glaivezooka helps you do that so well. But if you don't get a Glaivezooka, your Hunter deck probably suffers a lot and it's probably very difficult and stressful to play. But here with Cloaked Huntress, you get a 3 mana 3/4 that's only for your class, but you get a plus side here. Your secrets cost 0. That's great! You can flood out secrets, and I don't think this is overpowered at all. I don't think this is overpowered. Hunter sucks in Arena too. Hunter sucks. Hunter needs this card. And also, secrets aren't even that good. Like, you could spam secrets all day. And this also, I love the idea behind letting you spam out your cards as Hunter, because you get a lot of cards that benefit off having an empty hand as Hunter, right? And it kind of promotes that idea of, you know, I'm Hunter, I'm gonna let go of all my cards and just rely on my hero power. It's a more defined strategy now to play Hunter. I love it. I love it. I don't think it's overpowered. I think it's great. I think it's a really good card. I think it's a really good card. I think it's well designed, and I don't think it's overpowered. I am looking forward to playing this card and drafting a deck with a ton of secrets just for fun, and to see, you know, how tilted I can get my opponents. It's gonna be great. Yeah, love this card. Love this card. Deadly Fork, 3 mana 3/2. Death Rattle, add a 3/2 weapon to your hand. I see a lot of mixed opinions about this card. I'm gonna tell you right now that this card is a little bit below average. I don't think it's that strong. I think if this card was in any other class besides Rogue, it would be like one of the best cards. But the fact that you can't hero power when you have a 3/2 weapon, and this is why weapons are generally bad in Rogue, and the only decent weapons are the ones with like battle cries or combo effects that do something, right? Perdition's Blade, and whatnot. You can't hero power with this card. This is 3 mana 3/2. Add a 3/2 weapon to your hand that you need to pay 3 mana for. It's 3 mana for the weapon. And also, that weapon has the clause of you cannot use your hero power. People seem to forget this. This is why I don't like Deadly Poison either. You cannot use your hero power. You cannot do 1 damage. You're losing out on something. It's not all just free. So, I mean, the card itself, I think it still is okay. But overall, I would say that I'm just guessing here, and I think the public opinion and the mass majority opinion on this card is way too high for it, and I don't think it's as good or nearly as good as you know the majority would think it is. But still, it's an okay card. I'll give it a very I'll say it's an average card. I'll say it's average. It's very average. Moving on. Nightbane Templar. 3 mana 2/3. If you're holding a dragon, summon 2 1/1 whelps. We have a lot of cards that are situational on holding dragons. Dragons are probably the hardest family of cards to get in your deck, and we have a lot of if you're holding dragon cards. We know how that works out. And generally, the idea, we have come to the conclusion that it's very hard to get these if you're holding a dragon effects off. So pretty much just a 3 mana 2/3. I think it's bad. I'm glad it's a common, and I'm glad paladins are being forced to pick it. Unless they have a dragon, then I'll probably rip my hair out. So 3 mana 1/3. Battlecry, summon a 1/3. I'm not even gonna go over this card. This card is garbage. Alright, I'll go over it. This card is garbage. I mean, it dies to a lot of 3-drops for free. Like, both bodies die to a lot of 3-drops for free. Like, even if this was 2 mana, like, even as a 2 mana card, it would not be that great. Yeah, this card could easily be a 2 mana 1/3 and 1/3 and probably still be worse than Haunted Creeper in my opinion. Maybe around Haunted Creeper strength. This is pretty much a different Haunted Creeper for the cost of 3. So, that's all. That's my opinion on it. And I love this 3 mana 3/3. If you discard this minion, summon it. I love the discard mechanics with Warlock that Blizzard is trying to push. It is a gamble, and I think it's very hard to draft a deck around the strategy of discarding your cards as Warlock in Arena. So keep that in mind. But if you look at the card alone, like standalone wise, it's a 3 mana 3/3, which is it's an okay stat line. It's not great, but I could see how this card gets insane when you play a Succubus and you discard Self-Aware Golem. So yeah, like if you want to have some fun, you can try it out. Otherwise, you know, it's just a slightly below average 3 mana 3/3. That's all. Violet Illusionist, 3 mana 4/3. During your turn, your hero is immune. That's cool. I like this card. I like this card. So pretty much what that means, since it's during your turn, obviously your opponents are not attacking. During your turn, only you can attack. So if you're playing a weapon class, it's pretty much saying that whenever you use a weapon, you don't take damage. So you can kill minions without taking damage. I could see how this card would make really good use out of where is it? Fool's Bane, right? Or like Doom Hammer or like Assassin's Blade. This is the kind of card that you would need to use those cards fully, or else you just bleed out too much. So I mean, it's a 3 mana 4/3 stat line, which is second to only the 3 mana 3/4 stat line. So it's okay stat line, not great, but the effect is definitely important here. The effect is something pretty huge. So here we have Zubat, very similar card to a Menagerie Magician. But instead of +2/+2, you get +1/+1 on all of your random friendly beasts, dragons, and murlocs. All of your random. Okay, just one of each. Yeah, just one of each. But like I said, it's very easy to get that effect off, and very often your 2-drops will be the most flavorful cards. Your 2-drops will be the ones that are murlocs or beasts or dragons, right? Got a lot of like clan. What do you call them? Like family cards in 2-drop slot. So this is kind of like an old Shattered Sun Cleric where you're giving a +1/+1 effect with a battle cry, and your 3-drops cost stats are 3/3. So it really reminds me of Shattered Sun back in the day before they nerfed it. So I think this card is pretty good. I think it's pretty good. I would say it's better than most 3/3s with the same stat line. Most 3/3s like Raging Worgen, whatever, like this effect is a lot more beneficial to you than Raging Worgen perhaps getting enraged, for example. I think it's good. I like it better than the Menagerie Magician as well, and we'll look at that card one more time. We've got the Menagerie Magician here. Give him random friendly beast, dragon +2/+2. But this one is a 5 mana 4/4, which is, in my opinion, way worse. Because your 4/4 is never going to kill a 5/5 or a 4/6, and it even trades down against Paladin Shredders, which are 4-drops, and even Yetis, which are 4-drops as well. So that's the difference between that. And this Zubat, it kills the more popular stat line for 2-drops, right? The more popular stat line at the moment is 2 mana 2/3s. It kills those for free, but also it doesn't die to free to all 3-drops. You know, it trades evenly with the one next to it, right? The 4/3. And the only thing that really gives you trouble is the 3/4 stat line. So yeah, it's a much better card than the Menagerie Magician, and I would say it's even a great card. Pretty excited to play it, and it's so cute. Look at this. Look at these. That's adorable, man. That's adorable. Little animal zoos. Next card we have Cat Trick, another secret. We can combo this with this baby right here, the Cloaked Huntress. Should be fun. After your opponent casts a spell, summon a 4/2 Panther with Stealth. So this is the first card in Hunter, first spell that is affected by spell casting. So And this is actually just the third secret in the entire game that is affected by spell casting. So, you know, there's Counterspell and Spellbender, and there's this card now. But instead of countering the spell or like changing the spell, it lets the spell happen. But you get a 4/2, right? And my understanding of how this card works is, since it says after your opponent casts a spell, summon a 4/2 Panther. Like if your opponent casts Flame Strike, the Panther will not die, right? Will not die to the Flame Strike. If it did, this card would be a lot worse, because, you know, pretty much every AoE spell does 2 damage, like Consecrations, Holy Novas, Cleaves, whatever, and the 4/2 would always die. So, you know, it's just an anti... This is kind of like playing around board removal by playing this card. You know, you have something developed already, ready to attack, ready to do 4 damage after your opponent uses board removal, board AoE spell. So, pretty good. I like it. I like it. Especially because the free secret card. I like it a lot. Maelstrom Portal. Deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. Summon a random 1-cost minion for 2 mana. I think this card's okay. You do get a lot of AoE as Shaman. You get Fork Lightnings, you get Lightning Storms, you get Elemental Destructions. Generally, you just get a lot of removal. You're one of the classes with the most removal in the game. You're not going to be in too many spots where your opponent has a ton of 1 health guys. And it being in a rare slot makes it a little bit worse because rare cards are so good. So it's difficult. It's difficult to say. Even though you do get a 1-cost minion, I would say that this is worse than Arcane Explosion in Mage, right? But if you like compare the cards right next to each other, this one just does something extra, right? You get a 1-cost minion, but just the rare slots quality just makes it a little bit worse. Like on average, you won't be picking this card very often. I would imagine there's a lot of good rare cards out there that are much better than this one, but it is something to keep in mind. And I like this effect much better. That we need to think about not playing into Maelstrom Portal. I like that. I like that we have to think about that when playing against Shaman. It adds a new level to it, because usually when you play around AoE from Shaman, you would leave your guys at either 1 health or above 3 health to play around Lightning Storm, right? So you'd make trades in a way where you have a bunch of 1 health guys and then a bunch of guys that don't even die to Lightning Storm, even if he gets a spell damage totem, whatever. But now that this card's into play, you gotta think about it, and you gotta know that it exists, and you know, you gotta be ready for it. So it does have that effect, and in that way it indirectly buffs Shaman because it makes it harder to play against. So yeah, but overall the card itself, not very good. Purify, a lot of people hate this card, a lot of controversy over this card, but I'm gonna set the record straight here. 2 mana, silence a friendly minion, draw a card. Moving on. Okay. Kindly Grandmother, 2 mana 1/1. Oh, we already went over that. That was we looked at this card last week, so we're not gonna do this. All right, I'm just kidding. Purify. So I mean, you can use this on like an Ancient Watcher, and then it's like, wow, you got a 4 mana 4/5 for 1 card. But then that's a 2-card combo, right? It's Yeti. It's just, I do think this card is one of those cards that does get better in the future. I think priests could possibly get more cards that are like things that you could silence off, right, for yourself. More cards that you can silence off for yourself. But at the same time, like right now, of the release, like of the cards that have been released, this card is not going to be very good as of now. But in the future, yeah, definitely. In the future, yeah, definitely, it could be much better. But for now, it's not very good. It could have costed 1 mana or 0 mana and still be a viable card. Yeah, those are my thoughts. I think I am also in the. I also think it's kind of bad, but what are you gonna do? Medivh's Valet. We have a 2 mana 2/3, already good stat line. Battlecry, if you control a secret, deals 3 damage. That is insane, man. Mage has probably the best secrets in the game. They cost 3. They actually do things that are worth a card. Effigy, Mirror Entity, they actually like do stuff that constitutes being a card, as opposed to like Noble Sacrifice that just, you know, is a waste of card, or, you know, a lot of secrets are not worth the card and do not get value. But this card on top of those, like, this is a 2-for-1 2-drop, and then even if you don't have a 2-drop, you just play it. 2 mana, 2/3. This card's really good. And I think, and here's, oh god, should I say this? Yeah, I'll say it. I mean, because of the offering bonus to Karazhan cards, I would suggest if you're going to play Mage, and this is what I'm going to do, man. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to draft a lot of secrets, and because we'll be offered Medivh's Valet very often, I'm just going to take every single one, and it's just going to be the bestest, most awesomest deck ever. So, I mean, this card's great. I don't think I need to go over it too much. It's the 2 mana 2/3 with a great upside. Like, an actual, like, game-changing upside. So, here we have a 2 mana 1/3. If you're holding a dragon, discover a dragon card to get off. If you have a lot of dragons, draft it. If not, the card is really bad. It dies to 3/2s for free. Moving on. We already looked at that card, and we're gonna move on to Spirit Claws. 1 mana 1/3 has +2 attack while you have spell damage. Most minions that have spell damage effects on the card are terrible. Cobalt Geomancer, Cobalt Snowmancer, I don't know, like, I can't think of them because they're so unnecessary. Archmage, like, they're just terrible. Like, no one cares about the spell damage minions in Arena. And this is a Shaman card, I believe. Yes. But then again, you do get spell damage totems, but once again, you don't want to detempo by toteming, and you don't want to rely on that 1/4 chance to get a spell damage. I don't think it's good. There's so many better removal options than this one right here. I'm gonna say that this is pretty bad. Moving on, Arcane Anomaly, 1 mana 2/1. Whenever you cast a spell, give this minion a +1 health. Very similar to Mana Worm. But worse effect and worse stat line. Card is garbage, right? Has a worse stat line, and the effect is worse. It doesn't grow to help you trade up as you use spells to remove. The great thing about Mana Worm is you can keep playing, linebacker for your quarterback Mana Worm, right? You just keep removing, but you're investing in the Mana Worm. Like, you protect it for 4 turns with spells. It's a 5/3 or a 6/3, right? And then it trades up at that point. With this card, you protect it. On turn 5, it's a 2/6 or a 2/5, and it just dies in 1 hit. There's no point in protecting this card. This card is just garbage. Okay, moving on. Look at these cards. Runic Egg. Is that the last one? No. There's one more. Runic Egg. Death Rattle, draw a card. 1 mana 0/2. So you're wondering why you would force yourself to have this, right? Especially if you're a newer player, you're probably wondering, what is the point of this card? It just seems terrible. But it gives you, the main obvious thing it does is gives you the option to buff it up, right? You can use Abusive Sergeants, Shattered Suns, Defender of Arguses, Dark Iron Dwarves, Blessing of Kings, Mark of Nature, Velen's Chosen, you name it, you can buff it up. It gives you a body for that, and it's on turn 1. So if you can play it on turn 1, you all of a sudden you have a free body to buff up. The problem is when you don't end up getting or drawing a buff for it and your opponent just ignores it, it just becomes the worst card, especially in the top deck scenario or like a very slow game. You lose if you have this card. You just lose. You're playing a card down and they laugh at you as you just struggle with this 1 egg. Yeah, it's bad. I could see how it could be good and constructed, maybe with some Jeeves synergy or something. Maybe some divine favor things that are happening, but card is bad, man. And I absolutely hate this card. I don't know why Blizzard does this, man. This card is too good. 1 mana 1/1, okay? And 1-drops are free, pretty much. 1-drops are free to play, because usually you don't even expect to play 1-drop on 1. But this has add a random class card to your hand from your opponent's class. What? You get your card back? And then you already have board control as Rogue? Rogue is the single best board controlling class. This is not contested by anyone. No class can control the board and the game as well as Rogue can control it. And now they get a free 1-1 to start the game. They get a free 1-1 to start the game. Why? Why? This makes 3/2s so hard to play. 2-mana 3/2s. Now you play against 2-mana 3/2. You play Puddle Stomper. They have this. They hero power. Boom boom. They have a. Not only do you lose a card and they don't lose a card, right? Because they get the card back from the effect. They have a 1 damage weapon that they're holding. What? Damn it, Blizzard. Damn it, Blizzard. Alright, you know what? I'm excited to play it. I hope that my excitement continues as I do play the One Night in Karazhan. But reviewing these cards has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys for tuning in. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave it a like. And if there's any questions you have about certain cards or why I said certain things about it, then you just leave some comments and I'll try my best to get at you. But yeah, those are my thoughts on every one of these cards. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.